Hello, everyone. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar on undergraduate admissions. I am Vrinda Tandon, and I work with the Office of Outreach at Ashoka University. Since the deadline for round two admissions to Ashoka's undergraduate program are approaching, soon, let's just say 2 days from now, which is 11th of January, we want to help answer any queries that you might have. Joining me today are Benji Lokikon and Mannat Kalkat from the Office of Admissions at Ashoka University. Together, we will be addressing some of your queries on the Ashoka undergraduate admissions process. Before we begin, I would like to inform our audience that you do not have to wait for your 12th board marks or the CUET to apply. You can get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid even before your final board results are announced. Now, without further ado, let's get started. I would request our audiences to kindly type any questions that you have in the Q&A box provided on your Zoom screen. We will address them during the session. Starting with our very first question of the day. Mannat, this one's for you. So, what is the benefit of applying in round two, and what is the deadline for applying in round two?
So I'll get started with the deadline first. The application deadline for round two is the 11th of January, which is soon approaching. And I think the benefit for applying in round two is just, you'll get your decision sooner, right? There are quite a few benefits, but I'll go through them one by one. One is you'll get your decision sooner. You'll get your decision in hand by the 24th of March. And so, you get a lot of time to kind of plan your finances, get comfortable with the fact that you'll be moving to a residential college, and just all in all make plans and get to enjoy the fact that you already have a college in hand, and you can then even not really worry about anything else and prepare for other your boards and stuff. So I think that's one advantage. Another advantage is the fact that applying earlier, to be very honest, you're going to be safe. We have hypothetically speaking 100 seats. A few of them have already gone out in the first round. Now you might 20 offers have gone out in the first round, so you're left with 80 seats, right? So you're competing with fewer applicants for more seats. So just it's kind of when you think about it, it's kind of better to apply in previous rounds or in earlier rounds rather than applying at the later stages, because when you're applying in round 4, quite a few of the seats have already been taken, statistically speaking. So I think that's also a benefit that you should keep in mind while deciding when your application should go out. Having said that, always ensure that it's quality over anything else. You should be confident in the application you're sending out. If you feel that your application is not up to par, or you just don't have enough time to come out with a good application, please don't rush your application and submit it in this round. Even though there's a benefit of applying to this round, it's always quality over anything else. So yeah, do keep that in mind too.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mannat. Just to add one point here, everybody who's thinking of a benefit to apply in the second round, what will happen? You will be done with your assessment even before you sit for your board exams. And your interview is only a 45-minute, commitment that you have to make according to your own schedule, which is also very flexible, which I think both the people from the admissions team will be talking about today. So that is also another thing. So if you want to apply early, you still have 2 days to go. Right. Thank you so much for that, Mannat. Okay, so with that, I think I'll move to Benjiro. Benjiro, a question for you is that what does Ashoka look for in students?
Right. So, as you know, Ashoka is a liberal arts university that provides holistic education. We look for students who would fit into such kind of a situation. So we look for students who are curious, not just intellectually, but in other aspects as well. We look for students who are willing to put in hard work. So we want commitment from our students. So these are some of the qualities. We also want students who are open to learning, because college is a time when students can get to learn new things, experience new things. So we want our students to be able to absorb as much as possible in their 3 or 4 year study at Ashoka. So we want students who are open to learning, and also open to unlearning some of the things that they might have learned. Apart from that, we want students who are willing to think independently and critically. We do not promote rote learning. We want our students to be able to think critically and independently. So these are some of the qualities. Also, we do not just want students who, of course, academic rigor is very important, but we also want students who are actively involved in other aspects of life, extracurricular activities. So in short, these are some of the things that we look for in our students.
Thank you so much. I think that gives a lot of insight. Okay, so Manat, coming back to you. Is there any application fee for the undergraduate program?
No, there's no application fee for the undergraduate program application. Your kind of application fee is non-existent. So please, there's no barrier in applying. Please do apply as early as possible. And yeah, again, deadline is 11th of this month.
Yes. So just another question for you, Manat. Should I keep some points in mind while filling out the application form?
Definitely. I think firstly, when you mentioning your email ID, please mention your personal email IDs, not email IDs given to you by your school. Secondly, when you're having a run through your application, looking at your essays, looking at the information that you've filled in, also just do a basic grammar check, and ensure that all the information that you filled out is correct. Just go through it once again, because sometimes date of birth, your parents' information, people can kind of get numbers here and there, or a few words here and there too. So do go through that once again and see that there's no inconsistent information that you put out there. And also, just like, be honest, and don't plagiarize is one very important thing, while you're filling out your application, especially the essays. Don't plagiarize from anywhere, because we do come to know, and then we don't really go forward with your application. So I think these are some important pointers that you do keep in mind while filling it out. And if there's anything that you would like to disclose to us, there is always a support section that we have in our application. So please, please make use of that. Take advantage of that, and do talk to us about like anything that you feel you would like for us as the admissions committee to know. So yeah.
Excellent. I think that covers almost all of it. Perfect. So Benjilo, coming to you, now all of us are very, very clear about the thing that financial aid is an integral part of Ashoka University. I mean, we are one of the biggest philanthropic initiatives in the country. So of course, we're going to get questions on financial aid. So Benjilo, for you, how much financial aid does Ashoka provide? And does Ashoka offer any scholarships?
Right. So like Brinda said, financial aid is one of the most important things at Ashoka University. More than about 51% of our students on campus are on financial aid. So that says a lot about how much aid we are offering to our students. Now, when it comes to how much aid one student can get, it all depends on the need of the student, right? So while the admissions process is merit-based, financial aid process is need-based. So once you get an offer of admission, you will be asked to fill a financial aid form, where you will be asked to produce a lot of documents, which will give the financial aid committee an idea to assess your application. So based on the documents you provide, the financial aid committee will grant you aid. The aid varies from, let's say, tuition 25% waiver on tuition fees to 100% waiver on tuition fees. Some students also get fully funded financial aid, which means they get a waiver on their tuition, their residence, and meals, depending on the need of each student. Now, so what I would like to encourage you all is to be ready with the documents that you will require to apply for financial aid, because it is quite an extensive list. You will be asked to produce a lot of things, and each applicant will be assessed thoroughly. So please be ready with that. Now, when it comes to scholarship, Ashoka recently introduced the Science Merit Cum Means Scholarship. This is for students who want to pursue the sciences in their undergraduate degree. So if you want to pursue physics or chemistry or biology or mathematics or computer science in your undergrad, you will be given scholarship, but this is very limited. So this will depend on how you perform in your 11th and 12th in your sciences, and also will depend on the need that you have for this scholarship. So there is scholarship opportunities for students who are interested in studying the sciences.
Excellent. Okay. So I think we've covered quite a few questions in a very, very short amount of time. So let's just move to one more question for you, Manat, and which says that, is there any preparation required for the AAA, which is the Ashoka aptitude assessment? How to go about it? What would you recommend? Sorry.
All right, yeah. No worries. So, the short answer is no. There's no preparation as such that you require for the Ashoka aptitude assessment. Just to give you a brief breakdown of what the assessment looks like, there are two parts to the assessment. One is called the thinking skills assessment, and the other is the on-the-spot essay. Now, thinking skills assessment involves 40 multiple choice questions. 20 of them are for related to critical thinking, and 20 are related to just numerical and spatial reasoning. So they're very intuitive and critical questions, which don't really require any preparation or any formal studies. So, don't be very bothered by the kind of questions that you're going to receive there. And although I do know, mentioning the fact that any exam has a mathematical component does make a few people anxious, but this is very basic math, very basic numerical reasoning. That's what there is. So you don't really need to, have math in like your +2 to be able to tackle these questions. So yeah, no specific preparation needed for this. And one thing that you should keep in mind though is that you need to take the Ashoka aptitude assessment in order for your application to be considered complete. If you fill in your application and submit it by the 11th of January, but you do not sit for the Ashoka aptitude assessment on the 22nd of January, we will not be considering your application. So if you have submitted your applications, please do sit for the assessment, which is going to be held on the 22nd of January.
Perfect. All right. So, Benjilo, the next question is coming to you. This is actually on something called Haryana domicile, which is something that we really look at.
Yes.
So I have two questions for you back to back. One is that what is the benefit offered to Haryana domicile holders? What kind of evidence would be satisfactory? And there is a follow-up question to this. So first, if you could just answer this, and I'll ask you the follow-up question next.
Right. So according to the Private Universities Act of Haryana, Haryana domicile students are eligible to get scholarship or let's say financial aid. So if you provide your Haryana domicile certificate, no matter what your financial standing is, you will be entitled to get a certain amount of financial aid. So this is one of the primary reasons why we want our students who are domiciles of Haryana to submit their Haryana domicile certificate. Without this certificate, even if you are a domicile of Haryana, we will not be able to process your scholarship or your financial aid as a Haryana domicile student.
Perfect. So the follow-up question here is that, and it is actually very important, even we've received it on our helplines, which says that we're not able to get our domicile certificate before the deadline of 11th of January.
Yeah.
Is there something that we can do about it?
Right. You can mention on the application form that you are a domicile of Haryana, and you may not upload the certificate as of yet because you do not have it with you. In case you have the receipt of your application to avail the Haryana domicile certificate, you can attach your certificate. Otherwise, your certificate will come in handy when you apply for financial aid. And financial aid forms will open only after the offer of admissions go out. So that gives you some time to sort of get ready with your domicile certificate. So for now, if you do not have it, just make sure that you mention that you are a domicile of Haryana on the application form and not necessarily attach the certificate. That should be fine for now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Benjilo. That really helps. Okay, Manat, moving on to you. So there is a question which says, I'm applying in round 2 and will be taking CUET this year. And will be filling in the questions regarding the same. But that we will get on 24th of March. I will probably not take the CUET maybe. Am I obligated to check box that? I think that is a thing that is confusing everybody at this point.
All right. So, the CUET section is usually for people who are applying again this year and have taken the CUET last year. So that's what it is for. Even in case some of you have checked yes on it and, don't plan on taking it later on if you were to get into Ashoka, it's all right. You don't have to really worry about that. So, yeah, this is nothing to be that anxious about.
Perfect. Okay, so there is one question that I think I can answer very quickly. Do we get the full day of 11th for the submission? So yes, you have time on 11th of January till 11:59 p.m. You have time to submit your application, which will be counted in round 2. So yes, you have the entirety of 11th as well. All right. So next question. I think right. So there is one question, which says that when do we have to declare our major officially?
Right. So as you know, at Ashoka, the first year we ask our students to do the foundation courses, right? So in the first year, even if you have given us economics or psychology as your course preference in your application form, in your first year, you will not be particularly focusing on just economics or psychology. You will be doing a bunch of other subjects, which is called the foundation courses. There's 9 of them. So you will be required to do a few of the foundation courses in your first year and in your second year as well. It is after the end of your 3rd semester, which is the second year, the 3rd semester, that you will declare your major. This is because we want our students to be able to explore different subjects and also get an idea of what subjects are like at Ashoka, and to be able to make a carefully informed, well-informed decision when they declare their major. So 3rd semester, at the end of the 3rd semester, you can declare your major.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Okay, Manat, so this is a question which is also an FAQ, which even I've been asked a few times. So there is this student who says that I'm involved in a few extracurriculars at my end, but I do not have certificates for them. Is it okay for me to attach pictures, or what else can work instead of a certificate?
Definitely, you can definitely attach pictures. We do have a lot of students who have pursued art as a hobby, have not really taken part in competitions, or have just been involved in a lot of cooking and baking. So what a lot of them have done is, they've attached pictures, or even into photography, they attach links to their Instagram blogs. They attach maybe a Google Drive with their pictures, with their videos, with their own submissions. So you don't necessarily need to have a certificate. You can definitely attach any other documentation of your hobby or of the activity that you might have, and we will definitely have a look at it too. So yeah, there's that for this question.
Perfect. Okay, so let's move on to something which is like an integral part of the application. Benjilo, we're going to talk about the essays now. So there are 2 questions that we have at the moment. I think I'm going to ask you one by one what they're about. So first of all, how do you write a really good essay? What would make my essay stand out?
Right. Well, a good essay, that is subjective, right? It all depends on what you would call a good essay is. But basically what we are looking for is something that tells us a little more about your curiosities. So we are interested in assessing the applicant holistically, right? We will be able to see everything that you've written on the application form. We will see your grades. We will know how much you've scored in each subject, but the grades and the numbers, they just give us numbers. They do not tell us who you are as a person, why you're interested in studying a particular subject. So, so the essays are basically to understand you, your intellectual curiosities. So it could be something about a topic that you're really interested in, maybe a topic from economics or from psychology, or a topic from physics that you have explored in depth, or it could be non-academic, but an interest that you have pursued. You could talk about art, music, any of your passions. So as long as we are able to see that you are passionate about a certain subject, be it academic or non-academic, and that you have engaged with it, you have gone out of your way to engage with that topic, and you represent yourself correctly, truthfully, and honestly, I think that would make a good essay. Yeah, so Manat, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think you should just really be interested in the topic you're writing about, right? It's all right. You don't need to like feign interest in any various topics to make yourself sound very intellectual or very like, a very smart person. It's all right to kind of, talk about your hobbies and your interests. We are just looking for something that you really have an interest in, right? Because it gives us something to talk about in the interview too. If you are selected for an interview, that is, it gives us an insight into you as a person and into how you think as an individual. So yeah, there's that. And also, having said that, please don't, your essay shouldn't just be like 2-3 lines in length, because it really just disqualifies you as an applicant, because it shows that no effort has really been put into the essay. So do take time, work on it, write a good essay with a nice beginning and an end. Don't kind of stop it midway, because there is a word limit that you have to adhere to. So do keep that in mind too. And yeah, please don't submit essays that are just like maybe 4-5 lines in length. I think that is also something that students should keep in mind.
Excellent. Guys, if you guys don't mind, can I add something here?
Yeah.
So I think this worked with one of the students that I was talking with the other day, who kept asking the same question about the essays. So I think the only thing that I could come up with, after which the child wrote a really good one, was that students, this is your storybook. This application, if you actually look at it, it's your storybook. You're the protagonist. You're the hero of this storybook, or the heroine for that matter. And the rest of the form is all black and white. It's all like what you've done, you're putting it. What you've done, you're putting it. Here is where we know about your thinking pattern. How do you think? What do you think about? And there is no right or wrong answer here, because it's your personal life that you're talking about. So of course there is, I mean, that's why we can't really judge, we're assessing it. We're just trying to understand who you are better, right? So just keep that in mind, and I think it'll become a little easier for you to even begin writing your essays, for that matter, at any point. So thank you so much, both of you. All right, so Benjiro, like I said, there are 2 questions. I'm going to come to you for the second question now, which basically just says that, is there a particular genre in which we should write this essay? Is it okay if I add humor into it, or does it have to be like very, very formal?
You can take full creative freedom, because yeah, this is something that's representing you, right? And like Brinda said, this is your story, so you can tell it to us in any way you want. If you like humor, please feel free to do that. We would enjoy reading humorous essays also. So please feel free to write in any way that you want. But again, let me just reiterate the fact that we do not want any plagiarized essays. All right. So even if there are a few lines that you've borrowed, you've stolen from somewhere else, that will not be tolerated. So please make sure that there's no plagiarism.
I also have something to add to this. So, humor is very subjective. So I'd also request you to err on the side of caution, because, sometimes there's also a very fine line sometimes, between humor becoming offensive. So, do keep in mind what humor you are referring to, and, maybe just have get a second opinion if you're that unsure about your essay and how it might come across to the team. While we do love and we do get a lot of essays that are quite quirky and that are quite humorous in nature, I would also advise you to kind of just maybe go through it again and maybe get a second opinion before moving forward with your application.
Perfect. I think that sort of sums up everything that anybody would have ever wanted to know about personal essays at this point. Great. Thank you so much, both of you. Moving to a little technical part of the application. So, Manat, you're going to be taking this one. Can we get the admission without CUET and board marks results?
Yes, you can. However, in some cases, students might get a conditional offer. When they receive their letters, they might receive something called a conditional offer from Ashoka, which might be dependent on your board marks. So in such cases, we are going to wait for students for the board marks to be declared, and then when the students get their results, they send it to us, and then we make a final decision on the basis of that. So a short answer is yes, we do accept some students, even though the board marks aren't out and without the CUET. But in certain cases, students do get conditional offers from us where their admission sometime, where we kind of also look at the board results as a component to the overall evaluation process.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a follow-up question for that. So if they're applying without their board marks, obviously they have to give us some scores. So in our case, it's predicted scores, right? So they apply with their predicted scores. There's a student who's asking, how do you self-predict? And how can you self-predict?
All right, I can take this one. So when it comes to predicted scores, I think students are are the best judge of how they're going to be performing in their boards, because I'm sure all of you would have given your pre-boards and then a lot of other exams, so that you get an idea of how you're performing through the year and how your 12th grade marks are also going to be. We also have cases, where something has happened maybe in the 11th and in the beginning of 12th, where a student hasn't been able to perform to their capacity. But in these cases, I'm sure you would know, how hard you're going to work and, where your true potential really lies. So yeah, do please, while you're filling in your predicted grades, do ensure that you are kind of accurate while you're reflecting your capability. If someone's been scoring in the 80s or the 70s and suddenly predict like a 99 and 98, it's obviously going to raise like a few cautionary kind of points in us to we're going to be slightly cautious while looking at that. However, we also get some students, like I said, who had maybe some extenuating circumstances, which is why that sudden jump in scores has taken place, which is completely all right. We do have a frank discussion with students about it during the interviews, so it's nothing you really need to be worried about while you're filling in your predicted grades, especially if your school doesn't give it to you, which a lot of schools don't. Yeah, do go forth with what you think best represents your capabilities.
Excellent. I think that sort of covers it all. Also, so of course, when we are at scores, so there's another score that we look at in the application, which is the SAT and the ACT score. However, before I even ask this question, just a disclaimer, SATs and ACTs are not mandatory at Ashoka. They are not. If you've given them, great. If not, perfectly fine. Your application has a no option in it when it comes to SATs and ACTs. SATs and ACTs are not mandatory for Ashoka University. You can just apply with your predicted scores. All right. So, Benjiro, this question I think I'll throw at you. So this basically says that, do we need to send the SAT scores directly through College Board in addition to including them in the application portal?
If you have already filled up your SAT scores in the application form and attached your SAT score sheet with it, then it should be fine. But again, it's always good to do it through the College Board also. So if you feel like sending it through the College Board, that is also acceptable. But yeah, just filling it up in the application form is also fine.
Perfect. All right,
also, Rinda, just one more thing, if students have taken, if you've taken the SAT and you feel like you've performed very poorly, you don't have to disclose it in the application. It's not compulsory to disclose it if you've taken it and you feel you weren't able to perform up to your expectations. So yeah, that's another thing that you should really keep in mind while filling out your Ashoka application.
Okay, so I actually have a few questions for another part of the application, but before that, I'm going to ask you one question that I get asked a lot. Guys, can any one of you just take a few minutes and tell them the process of filling up a letter of recommendation, sending a letter of recommendation to Ashoka University, either of you, please.
Right. I can go first, and then Manat, you can cover up anything that I might have missed out. So when you fill up the letter of recommendation with, please take permission from your recommender before you get their put down their name and their phone number and their email address in the application form. The letter of recommendation should come from someone who has known you at the school level, academic level, or even known you from the internships that you have done at a professional level. So it could come from anyone, but not family members. And when you fill up the recommended details, please make sure that the phone number, the email IDs are correctly put down, because once you have filled up the application form and submitted it, there's no way that we can change the email ID of the recommender. And once you have put down the email ID of the recommender and hit submit button, an email will directly go to your recommender. And your recommender will receive a link from us, from Ashoka University, telling them to follow the link and filling up the recommendation letter. So your recommender will privately get a link that will have all your details and asking them to write a letter of recommendation for you. So please make sure that your recommender also knows that they are your recommender, and also ensure that they check their spam folder as well, because the letter of recommendation can come in 7 days. The deadline for it is 7 days after the app is submitted, after the last date of submission of the app. So if your app submission is the 11th of January, your recommender will get 7 days from the 11th to fill up your recommendation letter. So please keep some of these things in mind. Mannat, if I've missed out on anything.
No, I think you've covered it all. I'd just say, it's also all right to kind of just check in with your recommender whether they've submitted it or not, because oftentimes, they have so many things going on with them that they just need a little reminder. You can just ask them that, my deadline is this. So, have you kind of submitted it? And also, sometimes just have a conversation with your recommender so they also know you as a person, and just kind of remind them of what all you've done and what all you've achieved, so that they also have like a comprehensive view of you as an individual in order to fill up the letter. So yeah, I think Benrulo's covered most of the points, and these are also some things that you should keep in mind.
Perfect. And just to add in there, guys, so basically what Benrilo and Manath have been very kind enough to tell you is that you do not need a letterhead. You do not need a signature from your school. You only need your recommender to copy and paste your LOR. So if that is something that is holding you back from submitting in the second round, it should not be. Because all you need to do is have a conversation with your recommender. Make sure before you submit your application, they've received the link to submit your LOR, and that's it. That's all that is required for the LOR. So just keep that in mind if any one of you is holding yourselves back in round 2 just because of this one fact. Okay, so Manat, the question actually for that is that we've received here is that will it be okay if my letter of recommendation comes in after the 18th? Although I've submitted the app, I'm planning to submit my application in the second round.
I mean, we're kind of, try to really get it done before the 18th, because then, it makes more sense, because your application is complete, it's comprehensive. We get to kind of go through it while, your recommender has already submitted it. It's not really accepted if it's come in after the 18th. There are certain cases where I think certain exceptions where I think the professor has kind of, maybe face some really difficulty in having it filled out, in which cases we do consider it sometimes. But the rule of the thumb is that, we don't really accept recommendation letters after the 18th. Please ensure that your recommender has filled it in prior to that date, and that, you're in constant communication with them, or, even just you send them an email or send them a text before the deadlines to ensure that they're at least working on it, and you kind of keep reminding them about the deadline. So yeah, please do try to get your recommender to submit it before the 18th.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I think letter of recommendation we've covered in detail at this point. If you still has any questions, please keep putting them in the Q&A box. We'll be happy to answer those. Guys, now moving on to another part of the application, which is also mandatory, in fact, which is the AAA. And I know that Benjilo's actually already, and even Manat, you've already answered this question, but I'm still asking you again, just because it's been asked again in the Q&A box, which is like, is it possible to get an alternate date if 22nd is not possible for us to give the assessment?
Let me take this. We announced the assessment dates way ahead of time. So for each round, there are different assessment dates, right? So we have published this date on our website. And the purpose for this is because it is really impossible for us to hold multiple assessments for one round. There can be only one assessment for one round. So if you are unable to do the assessment on the 22nd, you should be planning in such a way that you apply in round 1 or round 3 so that you can sit for the assessment for either of these rounds and not in round 2. So if you haven't submitted the application form for round 2 yet and you think that you cannot do the assessment on the 22nd, I would advise you to submit it in round 3 because assessments can happen only once per round. And if you do not do the assessment for that round, your application form will not be considered as complete, and we will be unable to move you on to the next round. So please make sure that you are available for the assessment day.
Right. And I'd just like to add in here a little bit, guys. So the assessment, the portal opens for almost 6 hours in the entire day. So all you need to do is take out 2 hours of your day and give that assessment. You can do that early in the morning, get the rest of the day for yourself, get your work sorted in the first half of the day, and then just sit at around 2:30 in the afternoon or 3:30 in the afternoon, complete your assessment. It's just a 2-hour assessment, 40 questions in 90 minutes, and then a 30-minute on-the-spot essay. That's it. So, and plus, like, I mean, we've all reiterated again and again, there's minimal preparation required. You don't really have to spend a lot of time preparing for it as well. So if, again, if you think that you can take out 2 hours of your day that day, please, I mean, that, and if that is the only factor that you will be applying in the third round, hold yourselves back, and it's just a 2-hour commitment. And after that also, in case you do get shortlisted for an interview, it's just a 45-minute commitment with a time and date stamp that you choose for yourself. We're not going to give it to you. It's a very, very flexible process. So take your call. Thank you. Thank you so much, man. All right. Okay, I am going so that we... All right, so guys, we have some subject-specific questions. I think before we... let's give the application form a breather for a minute, and let's just go for a few subject-specific questions. So Benjiro, if you can please answer this for me. Is maths necessary in class 12 to apply for economics honors at Ashoka?
Right. Up until last year, math was mandatory for a student to do economics at Ashoka. But now the economics department has made some changes to the policies. If you take up the foundation course on math in your first semester and the calculus course, then if you do well in these 2 courses in your first year at Ashoka, then you will be qualified to take up economics as your major, even if you haven't done math in your 11th and 12th. But you'll have to ensure that you do these 2 courses, the foundation course on math and the calculus course. And there are certain grade requirements for it, which I am not very sure of, but you will have to meet the grade requirements as well. So let me just look it up. You will have to get a minimum grade of A- if you want to do economics honors without a math in your 11th and 12th. So that's the new policy, yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Benjiro. Okay, so Mana, the next question is for you. Is it mandatory to study maths during the foundation year, even if you've not studied it in 11th and 12th?
Yes, it is. It's a foundation course. All foundation courses are mandatory for students to take up. So if you go to the website, you will see that there are 9 foundation courses. You'll have a list of them out there, ranging from the natural sciences to the social sciences. So the main aim again for having such foundation courses is to give students a broad exposure of the subjects that are available, and also the interconnection between the subjects, and the fact that no subject really exists in a vacuum. So, all these foundation courses are compulsory. You will have to take all of them. So even if you haven't, and we do have quite a lot of students who have not had math in their +2, so you won't be the only one. So all of them sit for it, and it's not like you're going to dive right into like integration, differentiation, and calculus. It's like a foundation courses. It's kind of structured and curated for students who do not have that foundation, so to say. So yeah, you will have to kind of take up that course.
Right. And also, if you're scared of maths as a subject, trust me, I was too. So I'm a student of commerce without maths from school, just for clarity for everybody sitting here. And the one thing that I really, really love about Ashoka's way of teaching, the pedagogy that it involves is that even a subject like maths is not rote learning. It is about applying concepts that you've understood and which are explained to you in a way that you sort of go back with a lot of understanding and how you can apply it, not what you can think with it, but how you can think with it. So that I think helps. So if you're scared of maths and you think it's not going to help, trust me, it'll work. And I can assure you that. Okay, so I think I'll give you both a breather for a minute. Let me just take the next few questions. All right. So can I major in BSc in psychology and a minor in performing arts? Yes, you can. I already know of a student who's doing this exact same combination at Ashoka. If a student decides to change their major, will they have to pay to change their major before or after the third semester? I think I can just tell you on the safe side here. You can change you have to declare your major during or right after the third semester. So until then, you explore through foundation courses, through electives, whatever classes you think you might want to sit into. Please be my guest. You can go and sit in all classes. I mean, I know students who are interested in physics and philosophy and then end up attending a few history classes and then a few IR classes. So whatever subjects you think you would want to attend, you're free to do that. Okay. Right. So, okay. Now a few questions on the extracurriculars. Benjira, you'll have to help me here now. I haven't received my non-academic, I think, certificates again. So, and I can't save and continue. So what should I do?
If you do not have your non-academic activities certificates, then you can submit the application form without them. The attachments for your non-academic engagements are not mandatory, so you should be able to save and continue. So that should not be a problem.
Perfect. Okay, and just a follow-up question on that. There's another person who's asking that, can I attach a Xerox of my certificates? For example, for my MUN certificate, can I attach a Xerox for that?
We would prefer your original scanned copies of your original certificates instead of Xerox copies. Also, so if possible, we would much prefer your original scanned copies instead of the Xerox copies. But if there's no option, then we will accept your Xerox copies as well. That shouldn't be a problem.
Perfect. Okay. So I think there's a follow-up question on the LORs. How many recommenders are needed to fill the LOR? How many recommendation letters can I put in?
One. Yeah,
Sorry.
one. And also, yeah, just to reiterate, do ensure that your recommender fills it in before the 18th, because the link that is sent to the recommender gets deactivated 7 days after the application deadline. So the link to fill in the recommendation letter for you as a student will get deactivated on the 18th. So you should ideally ask your professors or your teachers to fill it in before then.
Right. Okay, so there is a question which I think Manat you can take, which is also, I think this was a question that was asked to me also a few days ago. So what if a candidate is unable to take the aptitude test due to maybe another exam that they have on that day?
Too bad. You will you will have to you really have to, you're going to have to plan, make plans accordingly, because the aptitude assessment is held only on only on that one day for that one round. So on the 22nd, it's going to be held on the 22nd for this round, and we don't allow students to apply more than once in a cycle. So please ensure, when you're making, the dates are already there on the website, right? Dates for round 3 and 4 are also there on the website. When the assessments are going to be held. So please do plan ahead when you're kind of making decisions on when you want to submit your apps, and other things too. And having said that, the assessments are always held on Sundays. So I'm
Exactly.
sure you don't have like your exams and pre-boards on Sundays. All the assessments are held on Sundays from 10 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. I mean, to 4:30 in the evening. That's the overarching time slot given to students. You can select whichever time slot is convenient to you. And the assessment is a 90-minute assessment. Plus a 30-minute on the spot essay. So, just 2 hours of your day, and no preparation is needed, right? So just take out like 2.5 hours of like your day to sit on a Sunday and to just give the assessment. It's online. It's according to the timing that you want, because you will receive time slots and you can choose a time that you want. So please do ensure that you sit for it, and that you have no other commitments, on that day.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, students, it's on a Sunday. 22nd of January is a Sunday. So all you need to do is take out 2 hours of your day. And if you feel that you will be busy sometime in the evening, first half, or if you think you'll be busy in the first half, sit for the assessment in the second half, but do take your assessment on that day. And it is just 2 hours of your day.
Yeah.
All right, perfect.
Also, Brinda, I have one more point. In case something really sudden happens that you can't really make it for the assessment, because we do have such exceptions too, please do write to us, email us, and then we will see what we can do from our end. We can't guarantee anything, but we will definitely ensure that, something can be done from our end if like your circumstances were to, if something really did happen that didn't allow you to sit for the assessment. So that's also something that you should keep in mind.
Perfect. All right. So that is another one. I think you guys. All right. So now let's go on to another part of the assessment, which is the on-the-spot essay. We've just talked about it till now. So Benjiro, is the assessment same for all rounds, or such as the test and the on-the-spot essay, or do the questions change?
Right. So as you know, our Ashoka aptitude assessment, we used the test that's provided by Cambridge. And so we use fresh question papers for every round. This is also because we do not want students to have had an opportunity to have seen the questions somehow from round 1, and that might make it easier for students from round 2 or round 3 to do the test. So we want to give a fair opportunity to all our students applying in different rounds. So even if you're applying in round 4 or round 3 or round 2, you will all get different questions. Same goes for the on-the-spot essays. Also, the on-the-spot essay questions are randomized, so not all students will get the same set of questions. You will all get different set of questions. You will be given 2 questions each, out of which you can choose one and write the essay on. But this will all be randomized, and different people will get different sets of questions.
Yeah, and we have quite a lot of random questions. So, if a friend of yours is giving an exam in the morning, there's no point in calling them and asking what kind of questions they got, because there's quite a high probability of you getting a completely different set of questions.
Nice. Okay, so there is actually a so Manat, I think you will have to take the next 2 questions for me. How much does a writing style impact our essay? And are these essay topic bound, or are they free? This is for the on-the-spot essay.
All right, for on-the-spot essay, yeah. So what we want is not we don't want brilliant writers, right? What we want is for you to be able to convey your points across in like a proper manner that is comprehensible. and that we can comprehend easily too. So don't get too lost in like the jargon when it literature, and like how you're supposed to getting in technical words and some really complicated ideas in there. What we are looking for in an on the spot essay is how are you thinking, how are you framing your arguments, and how are you putting forth your arguments. So as readers, that's what we want to see from students. So do keep that in mind. And what was the second part of the question, Rinda?
So are the essays topic bound or are they free?
So what we try to ensure from our side is that the essays are accessible to students, right? So it isn't going to be very technical and only on one topic. Whatever topics that the essays are going to be about are topics that everyone would have read about. Almost everyone would have read about and would have some knowledge on. And again, like I said, we're kind of gauging your ability to think and to kind of put forth arguments. So the questions also that you will be getting are going to be checking for these. So you're not going to really have any specific questions based on very specific topics. They are very broad ranging and general topics that you will definitely be able to form some sort of an argument or like a kind of answer and passage on. So yeah, you don't need to be too worried about that, or you don't need to get very anxious about such about the on the spot essay.
Perfect. So Mana, just one follow-up question in this. Is there a word limit to the on the spot essay?
There isn't a word limit as such, but we do recommend you not having just like 100-word essay, right? Do try to put in some efforts. When I know it's like only 30 minutes, and sometimes students do get pressed for time, but do try to put all your points across, right? And try to like form like a nice structure to whatever thoughts you're trying to put forth. So yeah, no such word limits, but kind of do ensure that it's not extremely short and not extremely long either. I think around like 400-ish words, 400 to 500 words should suffice, because I think that's enough to kind of, it's like one page, enough to put your ideas forth and to kind of tell us where your thoughts are going and what you think of a particular topic.
Perfect. Okay, let's give you both a breather. Let me just take the next 3 questions. They're very quick questions, so you don't have a lot of time to breathe. Just letting you know. Okay, so can I complete my assessment remotely? Yes, the entire application process is online, be it your application form, be it your assessment, or in case you get shortlisted for an interview, everything is online. So yes, you can complete it remotely. I have given the SAT and the ACT, and still is the AAA mandatory? Yes. Even if you've given the SAT or the ACT, that which is not mandatory for the application, by the way, if you're giving us the score for that, even then the Ashoka aptitude assessment is mandatory for everybody who's submitting that application. And I think there was one more question which says. Right. Okay. So the next question, I think, Benito, if you could please take that for me.
Yeah.
Is there an application to fill out to register for the assessment?
No, there's no application to fill out. When you started your application form, you must have used a certain email ID, right? So we will correspond with you in that email ID. So just make sure that you have the admissions email ID as important in your inbox, because you will be receiving communication from us from the admissions@ashoka.edu.in email ID. So closer to the date of the assessment, we will be sending you demo links where you can click on the link and check out the portal where you will be doing your assessment. You will be able to check whether your browser is compatible with the link that we have provided you with. So there's no forms or anything like that for you to fill up. We will correspond with you in that email ID that you have given us, in which you have registered. So make sure you have our email ID inbox as important, and check your spam folder as well. Sometimes our emails can go to your spam folder. So just keep an eye out on your inbox for information from our end.
Thank you so much, Banjilo. Okay, so we have actually two more questions in this subject specific area. So I think, Banjilo, if you can be kind enough to just answer both of these for me. Is science, chemistry, or bio, or maths mandatory for psychology?
Right. So to study psychology at Ashoka, these two subjects are not mandatory for you. But then we also have the option of BA psychology and BSc psychology. So depending on which field of psychology you'd like to explore, you can either do a BA psychology without having the sciences, or you can do the BSc psychology with the sciences. So these are the two options that you can get while studying psychology at Ashoka.
Right. Okay. So with that, I have one more question. So, if I haven't studied computer science at 11th and 12th, can I still pick it up as a major?
Right. If you haven't studied computer science, you will be given an opportunity to attempt to take up a major or a minor in computer science. But then, like I said before, same as the economics major or minor, you will have to do the mathematical thinking foundation course and also the calculus enabler course in semester 1. So these are the two foundation courses that you will have to take up mandatorily if you want to attempt to do a computer science major without doing computer science. So you will be required to pass these courses and get a minimum grade of B for the faculty to consider you as a computer science major student.
Perfect. All right. So, Manat, the next two questions are coming to you. Can I apply without extracurriculars?
I mean, technically you can, but we would advise you to, just, I'm sure, like, a lot of students have been involved in something, right? It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be an activity that you've received a lot of certificates for, or that you have kind of, been in for, involved in for many years. All of those also, of course, are appreciated, but we definitely encourage students to really think back on, any events that they might have participated in, any volunteering work that they might have done, any hobbies of theirs that they have continued for a period of time. We have a lot of students, who talk about playing, music, and like I said initially, who started like baking during the pandemic, and so attach a lot of links to, a lot of the recipes and a lot of the things that they have made. So it doesn't really have to be anything. It doesn't even have to be things that you've done at school, right? It can be they can be activities that you've pursued outside of school. So I definitely recommend students to really think back on all the things that they have participated in, and at least jot down a few of them in the ECA section, because it also gives us an idea of who you are as people and what activities you're interested in outside of your academics.
Perfect. Okay. I think there is one more question, I think, and this was even asked to me at some point. So, suppose my extracurricular is related to music or to dance. Is there a way for me to submit a performance portfolio along with the certificates that I'm providing?
I can take that one. So the short answer is yes. A lot of students do prepare Google Drives of their performances, or the activities that they've taken part in, clips of maybe them singing, performing any instrument or dancing, and then they attach the link of the drive to like a PDF on which they have attached all the certificates. So in the end, you usually find a link to the drive. So we do open the link and look at whatever portfolio that the student might have wished to submit to us. So yeah, please feel free to kind of attach links to any such portfolios that you wish to send across to us. We also really enjoy looking at them. So yeah, you can keep that in mind while submitting your application.
Perfect. Okay. Now, moving on to something which is also part of the application process, but comes a little later, is the interviews. Manat, if you can just help me with this, what kind of questions do you ask in the interview, and how can one prepare for it?
So interviews are very subjective to the students that we are kind of having a conversation with. There's no set questions that we go into an interview with. I mean, of course, there are a few basic questions, that we'd like to ask students, but the interview really flows according to the responses that we get. Based on that, what we really recommend students is that they be thorough with their application and the components of their application, right? So although you must have submitted your application maybe like a few weeks before the interview is due, do have a look at it once again before you come for the interview, so that when we're having a conversation on things, you're well versed with what you've written in your application. So yeah, we do have conversations ranging from the interest in the various hobbies and ECs that students have listed, to some of their academic interests, to the essays that students have written. So there's no set template as such, according to which our interviews take place. It really is very different for each student. But what I do again recommend is that you go through your application, be thorough with the books that you've mentioned you've read, the activities that you've mentioned you've done, and the topics that you've just mentioned having a general interest in. So yeah, I think those are the pointers that I can give.
Perfect. Okay, so there are two technical questions in the interviews. I think I will answer these two so that you guys can get a small little break. So this basically is that will the interview be online? Yes, the interview will happen online. Do all students go on to this interview stage? No, there is a shortlisting that happens after the assessment is done. So on the basis of your application form and both the assessments, you go in for an interview in case you're shortlisted. Right. Now with that, Benjiro, I'm coming to you now. There is this question which says that are the admissions based on merit irrespective of courses preferred by students, or course preferred by the students are considered in the process of the admission?
The course preference of the student does not have any bearing in the admissions process for us. Like we mentioned in the application form and also on our website, the course preference is indicative in nature. It is for us to understand what kind of subjects you're interested in, what you would like to major in college. So, and also gives us a starting point for our conversations if you get to the interview stage. So those will not determine whether you get selected for the interview. They do not have any bearing on the admissions process, the selection process. We, of course, look at other aspects of your application form, like your 10th and 12th and your essays, your extracurricular activities, but your preferred choice of majors or your preferred courses at university, those are sort of indications for us to understand your application better.
Perfect. Okay. Mana, the next question is coming to you. So if the university hasn't received certain documentation from the applicant, will the application be rejected, or will the applicant be approached to send the same at a later date?
This does happen sometimes. Usually students do kind of mention whatever documents and attach the necessary documents, but in case a student has not been able to do so, they get their certificates at a later date. As one student had asked, there was a question there somewhere in the middle. So in such cases, they do write to us and they do attach their documents, and then we kind of look at it in tandem with the application that they have submitted. So there's no such thing as like application will get rejected. We will get in touch with the students so that they provide the necessary documents in order for us to move forward with their application.
Perfect. Okay, Benjilo, the next question is coming to you. I have my AP scores. Where can I add them? Because there is no place for it under the standardized testing.
Right. So under the standardized testing in our application form, we are accepting only SAT, ACT, and CUET. So there is no provision for AP score sheet in the application form. So unfortunately, we cannot accept that.
Of course. Okay. No problems. There's another. So moving on to another part of Ashoka, actually, it's not just part of the application. It's part of Ashoka, which is again financial aid. We touched upon it in the beginning of the session. So let's just go over a few questions that we've received. Number one, I think, Benjilo, you can answer for me. How can I get a fully funded scholarship?
Like I said before, to get a fully funded scholarship, you will have to apply for financial aid. Now, the financial aid form is very long and very detailed and very thorough. They will be asking you a lot of questions. They will be asking you about your parents' income, if you have investments, and all sorts of financial related questions. So you will have to answer all those thoroughly and also provide collateral for all these things that they're asking for. After that, after you have submitted your application for financial aid, the financial aid committee sits down and discusses each candidate individually. So they will go through all your documents, assess your financial situation and the need that each student has, and based on that only will full scholarship be granted to students. And if you are a student who wants to do the sciences at Ashoka, you will qualify for the merit cum means scholarship. Otherwise, you can qualify for a full waiver on your tuition, residence, and meals, depending on your need, like I said before.
Perfect. Okay, so Manav, the next question is for you, and this basically is that, are there any scholarships for international students?
So international students are also considered along with students, along with Indian nationals, based on merit, just as Benjilo had said, and need. A merit in the case of science scholarships and need in the case of all, all subject matters. So yeah, along after you receive your letter of like acceptance, that is if you get into Ashoka, you will receive a financial aid form at that time, which requires you to fill in various required documentation and information. So international students also receive that form at the same time, along with Indian nationals. So, there's no such disparity in the sense that we don't make special considerations for certain for Indian nationals over international applications or vice versa. Everyone's considered on equal footing, and we do look at students also in a holistic way while providing financial aid. So I do recommend everyone, whoever needs aid or feels like they need aid, do kind of have all your documents ready, so that you can kind of fill in the information needed right when you get the form, and you can get done with it as soon as possible, and you send the information across to us.
Perfect. Okay. Now we actually have one more question for from an international student. So Benjilo, if you can please be kind enough to answer this, which says that, are there any quotas for international students?
At Ashoka University, while we encourage diversity and inclusivity, there are no such quotas. So all students, all applicants are assessed holistically, and in the same way, there is equal assessment for everyone. So there is no quota specifically for international students, or there is no quota system. But again, we want to promote diversity, so we do look at diversity from across all backgrounds and communities and countries. So that factor comes into consideration.
Perfect. Okay. So Manat, next question is for you. How many subjects can one opt for in an undergraduate program?
So like when they're students at Ashoka? All right. So, it really depends on like your course load and what the requirements of each subject are, right? We have something called a major, something called a minor, and something called a concentration. Each of them requiring specific credits and specific numbers of hours that you need to sit for in class. So, and then you have something called the foundation courses too, 9 foundation courses that you have to complete, a major that you will have to declare, a minor also that you will have to have, and like, then there's a concentration. When it comes to interdisciplinary subjects, obviously there are 2 subjects that you can have as a major, as an interdisciplinary major. Otherwise, what students also do is, because of paucity of time, it's really difficult to complete 2 majors, so to say, in 3 years. So what a lot of students do is they go on into the 4th year, something called the Ashoka Scholars Program, and then they take on another major if they wish to do so, and complete the major in that particular year, or convert their minor into the major. So yeah, there's how many subjects, there are various subjects. I think you'll find the list of the subjects on the website. And yeah, exploration of the subjects really depends on the kind of courses you are willing to take up and the combination of various courses.
Perfect. Okay, so guys, while we were answering other questions, a very important question has turned up for the AAA actually. Is there any assessment fee involved when it comes to the Ashoka aptitude assessment? If any one of
Um,
you could take it, please.
Yeah, I can take this. There's no assessment fee for the Ashoka aptitude assessment. So please do ensure that you sit for it, because we don't really ask students to pay anything to sit for the assessment. So in short, no, there's no fee for the AAA.
Perfect. There's another question which says that are there any samples available on the website? Yes, there are 2 samples available on the website. Please feel free to go on the website and check the sample papers for the Ashoka aptitude assessment. There are also more questions under the interview section. So one of them says that who will be taking the interview for us?
Right.
Yeah.
You might see us interviewing you. So officers from the Office of Admissions will be taking the interview. We also have a few alumni from Ashoka University who takes the interview. So yeah, you will see familiar faces as in
It's
like
yeah,
us.
it
So
really
don't be
depends.
surprised.
It depends on your luck who you get sitting across
Yeah.
from you.
So don't be surprised if either of them turn up for your interview, just
Yeah.
in case you do get shortlisted, okay? This is just a thing.
Interesting game of Russian roulette happening there.
Okay. So I think just give me 1 second. Let me just go over all the questions. Let me see. There's a very general question which says that can I access my form after submitting it for the interview? Yes, you can always access a form that you've submitted through your portal. It's going to be there for you for all, I mean, at any point of time if you want to see it. Okay, so I think, guys, we're going to take the last 2 questions for the day. Right. Okay. So number 1 being, are we required to have prior knowledge on our selected discipline for the interview? Should we prepare for it? Anyone?
I mean, we're not going to be asking very technical questions related to the discipline that you mentioned, because we also don't have knowledge on such like a broad range of subjects, right? So I think what you should be thorough with is, like I said, things that you mentioned in your application specifically, and also, yes, do have like some general knowledge about the subject that you wish to pursue, right? Don't be completely disconnected from it, because we do want to see like at least some interest in like a subject that you want to be pursuing further on. We do get students with like a completely different subject preference from the courses that they've taken in their +2, but then also we do see that there is, they've exploded maybe through books or like through newspapers, or through various other articles. So there is some interest that we can see there. We don't like a complete disconnection between the majors that you've indicated. There has to be some connection. The connection doesn't really have to be thorough. It doesn't have to be very deep. So yeah, don't be very wary of like, or very anxious that you feel like you have to kind of take out all your textbooks of 11th and 12th and like just run through them before the interview. There's no such thing needed. All we want to see is like is some curiosity that you might have in the subject.
Perfect. Okay, so I think this is the last question for today. I'm going to add in my 2 cents in this when I asked you this question. So somebody was asking you for tips for the entrance exam and the personal interview. I think let's make it a very holistic question, and both of you take turns and answer this, because you both have different perspectives towards it. Any tips and tricks that you would want to give the students while they're applying from start till the end? And if you could just sum it up in like smaller bites from either of you, and feel free to start whoever wants to start.
Okay, I can go first. So let me start with the application form. Your application form is really important. It tells us a lot about who you are as a candidate, and we can easily differentiate between applicants who have taken time to fill up the application form and applicants who have hurriedly completed the application form and have not given in much thought to the application form. So we prefer to shortlist students who have given thought and time and energy and effort into the application form. So please do put in your effort. There are no tricks or no shortcuts for it. It's just hard work. You just have to give in your time and effort to it. When it comes to the interview, there's nothing to be worried about. There's nothing to be anxious about, because even though we call it an interview, it is really a conversation where we try to get to know our applicants. We want to know their stories, what keeps them interested in the subjects that they're studying, and what they want to explore, not just academically, but outside academics as well. So those are some of the things that we're interested in learning about each of our applicants. So yeah, just keep those things in mind. For the assessment, again, you don't need too many hours of preparation for it. It's testing your critical thinking skills and your logical reasoning. So I think you should be fine. Yeah.
Manat.
Yeah, I think what I'll add to whatever Benrilo has said is that, please be your true selves while you're filling out your application forms and even in your interviews, right? Because we can make out when, we have someone who's trying to portray who's trying to portray themselves as people that they're not. So, if you've mentioned the books that you mentioned, you should have read them. Don't mention books that you haven't read in order to sound very intellectual or someone who really, loves reading. It's all right if you like your romance novels, or if you like novels that are like thrillers and mysteries. You don't have to like be reading some really intellectual philosophers and have to be putting them out there. And even with respect to your essays, like Benilo said, do put in some effort, right? We can make out students so kind of filled in their application like half an hour before the deadline. Like we do come to know, like we do have some experience in like going through applications and interviewing students, so we also kind of have a knack for kind of just looking at it in certain ways. So yeah, do be your genuine authentic selves even in your interviews. Don't kind of portray yourselves as people that you're not. And having said that, do be thorough with like what you've written. And because you must have mentioned certain topics in your essays, some extracurriculars. Know like what to say about them, what to talk with, what to kind of how to engage with us on them, because we also like to have those conversations with you, so we get to know you better as people. So yeah, I think these two are the important some important points I'll point out for the application process at the interview. As far as the assessment is concerned, well, all I can say is do sit for it. It's going to be the 22nd of January this month, because your application is going to be incomplete without it, and all the hard work that you would have put in filling out your application would go to waste if you don't really sit for the assessment, because we don't consider students who haven't taken the Ashoka aptitude assessment. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Perfect. Okay, I think I was frozen for 30 seconds there. No, good to go. Thanks a lot, Bendido. Thank you so much, Mannat. Ladies, you've been really, really helpful today. And for all the students, just one thing from my end, you still have 2 days to go. I would suggest think, but don't overthink about things. You've already done this. You're just consolidating whatever you've been able to do in the past few years of your life, and that's it. That's all that you're looking at. So just make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, but you don't have to worry about it much, because it's actually your life story that we're looking at, and that's it. That's all we're looking at. So don't stress about it, and you still have 2 days to go. I mean, even after we finish off this webinar, the entirety of tomorrow and the entirety of day after tomorrow till 11:59 p.m. on the 11th, you still have time to fill up your application. And applying early is actually going to help get that load off of your head that there's another application pending. So all the very best. And in case of any further queries, please do reach out to us. But let's just end it in a very, very formal way now. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. Thank you everyone for joining us. We hope that this webinar was helpful to understand Ashoka's undergraduate program. We would really appreciate if you could please take a minute to share your valuable feedback with us. The link to the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Please note that the recording of this session will be available on Ashoka's YouTube channel in case you would like to share it with your friends. And before we end the session, I would once again like to inform our audiences that the deadline for round 2 for the undergraduate program starting August 2023 is 11th January 2023. I would encourage students to start early and get a confirmed offer of admission and financial aid even before their final board results are announced. For more information, you can write to us at ugapply@ashoka.edu.in or contact us on the numbers given on the screen. Well, this brings us to the end of this session. Please take care and stay safe. Thank you, Manna. Thanks, Banjiro.
Thanks, Surinda.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.